All right, I don't know exactly what that was all about, but the video intro did not play. But regardless, man, it's Saturday morning, bright and sunny outside. Ain't warm worth a damn. Kind of breezy, cool out there. But we are back with a lot of NFL draft information because we are officially about roughly 2 weeks away now.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
under
for the
2 weeks.
draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's time to start really digging deeper into this draft class. We all know the big time names. We're gonna discuss some of the big time names today, this morning. We're gonna also discuss some of the smaller names you may not be that aware of. Some of the for one matter, we're gonna get into the cornerback position and specifically days 2 and 3 in the NFL draft. Some of the names at the cornerback position who GM Brad Holmes could target, especially if they don't select the cornerback in the first round. We're also going to touch on who we believe is the number one running back in this class from both our individual opinions and viewpoints. Also, the wide receiver position, we're going to discuss Marvin Harrison Jr. and exactly how far is the gap from Marvin Harrison Jr. and the rest of the class. That's if you guys feel there is a gap in this situation.
Mhm.
So, first of all, what do you want to start with? Because we got a lot of interesting things to discuss, man. A
Yeah.
lot with this draft coming up.
Yeah. First of all, I mean, when you get to a point, when you're this close into, it's draft time, everybody's jockeying for position, as far as, who want to get the real story, the real break on, like, who's the next great quarterback right now. We see it with JJ McCarthy. You know what I'm saying? We see him really, um, you know, pushing that narrative, pushing Drake May, pushing, and rightfully so. I mean, everybody has their own camp. So I guess that they're, you see the top 30 visits. I think Kool-Aid McKinstry did meet with the Lions this week. So, everybody from, the top prospect in this draft to day two prospect or day three, you know what I'm saying? Walt, they making their rounds. All the teams right now are doing their due diligence. You know what I'm saying? They're doing their background checks, doing everything, maybe coming up with their big boards right now. You know what I'm saying? Coming up with players that right now that they feel that could be there when it's their time. Maybe it's teams behind the scenes trying to make trades, trying to see if they can move up a couple spots. Or I think once you get into maybe the final week, Walt, I think that a lot of teams kind of know where the first 7 or 8 picks are going to go, unless something crazy happens on draft night. We've seen it actually the last couple of years, even with our team, you know what I'm saying? The last couple of drafts, man, where somebody is gonna, I think, taking 2 or 3 4 5 quarterbacks in the first 7 picks could be very, it could happen this year. I think that this, out of every year, everybody goes crazy in quarterback talk. You know what I'm saying? And we know, Caleb Williams is the class of this draft talent wise. There's no disputing that, in my opinion. And after that, you got a bunch of other guys, whether it's Jaden Daniels, whether it's Drake May, whether it's J.J. McCarthy, whether Bo Nix, who it's still, this not a quarterback show. I still don't get, like, the hate for Bo Nix at all. As I think Bo Nix is a pride. Whoever drafts Bo Nix going to have a quarterback, man. I just truly believe that. But, yeah, getting into this, cornerback talk. I really like this draft. I just said it before. I thought last year was more, to me, was more deep on the defensive side of the ball. I think this year, I think it's pretty even, man. Both sides. I think it's players to be had. You know what I'm saying? For, depending on what you need as an organization. As the Lions, as we talk about them today in the cornerback position. Listen, the top 3 or 4 guys, you probably won't be able to get them, man. Because I think that they're, what is, speaking of like Quinyon Mitchell, I have him number one on my board, man, over Terrion Arnold. I think he's a damn hellraiser. I think whoever takes Quinyon Mitchell is gonna have him a damn a football player for the next year that could just, I just think that he's like the guy that you can just know that he's, when the minute he steps out there, he's gonna have it together, Walt. To me, I think cornerback and receiver are like two of the most scariest positions to draft, other than quarterback, obviously. Because it's hard, man. It's very hard to get to be a cornerback and make an immediate impact. We rarely see it. You know what I'm saying? In NFL. You know, when you get guys like Sauce Gardner who came and just kicked the door in. You know, on the competition. You don't see that very often. You know what I'm saying? You don't see guys like I was just remembering guys that I wanted last year. What's the kid from Georgia? Darion Kendrick. I remember I was real high on him.
Keely Ringo.
Kid Kaylee Ringo. I mean, not saying these guys are not good players, but man, they haven't really made an impact, and it's not nothing against them. It's just, man, it's hard. It's hard unless you're an outlier unicorn.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a couple of them guys in this draft, and I think they gonna go very quickly, man. When we talk about Quinyon Mitchell, we talk about Nate Wiggins. Now, Nate Wiggins kind of had to prove it to me a little bit more. What I mean by that is like during the season, he's opportunistic and he can really like turn it up. You know what I'm saying? I think that he lives for the third down style. I think he's a guy that really is a guy that defensive coordinators will want in their system.
He lives for the moment.
Yeah, I love Nate Wiggins.
Whether it's coming up and run support, it's making a big time interception.
Yeah.
He's a corner that lives for the big moment, doesn't shy away from the big moment, and most importantly, he has the confidence and he has the skill set.
Yeah, hell yeah. And then the 4.28 just really.
Yeah.
That's I want my corners to be 4.4 and quicker. That's just me. I mean, you shouldn't even want to play cornerback in this league anymore.
Well, at least not on the boundary.
Yeah, if you can't run a 4.4, I don't even want to look at you, man. I mean, that's just how I feel. I mean, because I think that the talent. Look at the receivers in our division. Christian Watson, he can run. Justin Jefferson, a burner. You know what I'm saying?
Jordan Addison. We got
Jordan Addison. Yeah, it was
DJ Moore. Yeah.
Oh man, Jordan Addison was a nightmare. You know what I'm saying? And then you figured Chicago is probably going to take. They're going to take Caleb Williams, but they're probably going to take a receiver too. You know what I mean? To go with, it's only right that they do that. So if you're the Lions, man, you want to combat everything that the other teams are doing in your division, man, just so you can have some man. Because look at what Chicago did. And remember what was that during the holidays when we played the Bears, and they, like you said, he took advantage of Jordan Addison. Just was a nightmare to guard, man. We didn't have the quickness on the outside to stay with him. So I think for me, well, if I just rate it, I would say Quinyon Mitchell, Nate Wiggins. I like Terrion Arnold. I really like him. Terrion Arnold third. I'm putting Kool-Aid fourth, but man, the Kool-Aid slander is real. I think that at the beginning of the season, if you would have told me we would have had a chance to get Kool-Aid, like before this college season started, Walt, you know what I'm saying? Coming into this season, I would say, man, I would take that. Now it's other guys I would take over him. Kyrie Jackson from Oregon. I really like him. I think that he's 6'4", though. I don't know how quick he runs a 4.5. I don't know if Kyrie Jackson will be able to have the quickness, a lot of movement, the twitch to be able to keep up. You know what I'm saying? Off initial attack.
Oddly enough, he had, I think, was it the fifth best at the combine? I think he had the fifth best 10-yard split, in which I'm gonna get into that in a little while when I get to breaking it down. But
yeah, guy,
he had the 42. I mean, a 4.5 for a corner that's 6'3". That's damn good. A 4.5 for 6'3", considering his length.
He's 6'4". Yeah, long. And then too, Walt, I think that's the new body type in that position. I think you're gonna have to be a guy who can run, man, and can stretch and can do some different things. A guy that's really, you asked me who would I think would be a day two guy. I think that was a really good question. Just a couple guys I got. Enos Rakestraw. I wasn't a fan at first because I really didn't really watch a lot of Missouri football, so I had to kind of go back and kind of look at what his deal was, why he was being talked about at 5'11", 183. Another guy runs a 4.5. But I kind of like him too now. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like he's a guy. This is what I mean. Like the point of impact wall, he's really good within 10 yards. I think his problem is he's not physically imposing enough to be able to like hit the receiver off his spot after the 10-yard. He'll get
Or
there.
big enough. He's not as big time enough of an athlete either. I think
Yeah, right. He can
he
his
plays hard though.
yeah, his recover skills are good. He'll get, like, if you get past him and he turns around and he's in the wrong, he'll get there and probably try to knock the ball down or something like that. But he gonna have to learn that, man, in the NFL, because if you don't do anything to knock the receiver, make him uncomfortable first couple 10 yards, you're done. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, but I do like his feistiness at the line of scrimmage. I like that about him. Cooper DeJean, biggest question mark, man. I mean, I would take TJ Tampa maybe over Cooper DeJean. I'm not as high on him as other people are. I'm not going to bash him. I mean, I'm not going to hold the injury against him because he can, he's young enough, he can come back from that. But like I said, TJ Tampa, 6'1", 195, a 4'4", 40 total bulldog, man. I think I didn't have his vertical. I thought he had a 36-inch vertical, if I'm not mistaken, TJ Tampa. And then Mike Sainristil. I mean, he's a guy I've seen locally. He don't have a position. He reminds me of Jabril Peppers a lot. He really does. I think he's a little bit better in coverage skill. I think he had to learn. I think he started off playing offense at Michigan, and then they turned him into a defensive back, which I think that's even better in his favor because he's got all the traits. And I like that he kind of can sense what a receiver is going to want to do playing a position. You know what I'm saying? Well, early in his career. So I like him. That's another guy, really, not just because he's at Michigan. I think that he fits today's NFL. I think that he's the perfect guy to have. I think Joel Klatt even did. Joel Klatt is just he's excellent, man. I don't know if you ever seen Joel Klatt, but and he said that Mike Sanders still probably the best covered nickel corner in this draft. You know what I'm saying? And
I
I think
disagree
that,
with we Clad on a lot of stuff, but
yeah, I like
I
him.
get it. Yeah.
I think that he hit the nail on the head with this guy. So I mean, it's talent out there, Walt. And I think I even like Cam. I didn't do a measurables thing on Cam. I like Cam Hart too from Notre Dame. I like
Yeah.
him. So
Another
it's a
tall,
lot of
rangy
guys.
corner.
Yep, a lot of guys. Well, I do think we do need to get some size though. Like at that position. You know what I mean? Just like we could talk about the running back position and the receiver, what we I want a specific guy. You know what I'm saying? Because like even Amik Robertson, we got from he's what, 5'11, 5'10, you know what I'm saying?
5'9".
Yeah, Carlton Davis is damn near, he's not even 6 feet tall.
No, Carlton 6'1".
Is he 6'1"? You
Yeah.
sure? I don't know if
Yeah.
he's 6'1" or not, but I just think we need to get some more size. I mean, just to be physically, to be able to jam guys, to be able to not just be a try hard, recovery guy and kind of slap the ball away. I want you to make a guy uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's what the Lions are missing at that spot. And like you said in the pre-show, you got to really pick a guy who's gonna be just gonna fit your system. You know what I mean? I just think that number one, a lot of these guys are 6'1", 5'11", 6'2". It's a couple guys like Kyrie Jackson we mentioned that's kind of bigger in size. And I just think that you gotta find the right guy for your system. That's where Brad
Yeah.
Holmes gonna earn his money. You know what I'm saying? Well, because these guys' measurables are damn near the same. A lot of these guys, 37-inch vertical. Tyrion Arnold, 37-inch vertical. Quinyon Mitchell, 38-inch vertical. Kool-Aid McKinstry, I'm sorry, I can't talk this morning. Vertical, 34-inch vertical. Rakestraw. A lot of these guys are damn near the same, man. You know what I'm saying? It's just I like that what we got. I like what we already have. I trust that Brad Holmes will get Aaron Glenn the right guy and make it
Orlando
work.
on one this morning.
Yeah. And he's right. Orlando's right. That's what I'm saying. A lot of these
Yeah,
guys
it's a
ain't even,
college thing.
yeah, they ain't as tall. Remember they said Kyler Murray was like 6'2", and then he damn near like 5'7". I'm
I'm
taller than
6 foot.
Kyler.
I'm 6 foot even.
Yeah. So you know,
Yeah.
it's gonna be. Let me ask you this, Walt. I ask you this question. I mean, do you think a cornerback is like doable? Like, you know what I'm saying? Can you see that happening at, let's just say we don't even make a move, trade up or down? 29, do you think that he would even consider drafting a cornerback
Yeah,
over like the top defensive line? Okay.
yeah, I think you would. And to get go back a little bit, backtrack a little bit to what you were originally saying about the cornerback position. I think if we look back historically at some of the greatest all-time corners ever,
Mm-hmm.
some of the greatest corners to come out of the draft that's been drafted in the first round the past 10 years, whatnot.
Yeah.
These guys are still elite athletes. When you find a lot of the corners in the Hall of Fame that weren't the great athletes, they were slot corners.
Yeah.
Like a guy like Rondé Barber. Rondé Barber wasn't a perimeter guy; he was a slot guy, and
Mm-hmm.
he took being a slot corner and developed it into a Hall of Fame career. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for the most part, if you look back historically, the guys who were the elite athletes that had the elite traits, the size, the
Mm-hmm.
athleticism, and everything, the ball skills, those
Yeah.
guys typically do make it. You know, you brought up Sauce Gardner, Derek Stingley, a guy who was
Yeah.
the number one rated player coming out of high school before he went to LSU, had a phenomenal freshman year, was hurt the next year, never really got his film back to what his freshman film was, but the Texans, they believed enough in him
Yeah.
in that freshman tape to make him a top 5 pick. And now look at Stingley. Stingley's healthy. Stingley looks like one of the best young corners in football. Then you
Mm-hmm.
got a guy like Kyer Elam, who was, I believe, the third drafted corner in that class with Sauce and Stingley, and he's been struggling since day one.
Yeah. He's a
So it's not always about the traits. You look at a guy like C.J. Henderson. A lot of people thought C.J. Henderson, me
yeah.
included, was a can't miss. You talking about 6 foot 205, 4'3", 40-inch vertical. Dude bench press 225, I believe, around 12 or 13 times, which is great for a corner of his size or whatnot. He
Yeah.
played in the SEC. He covered the best wide receivers in America.
Bingo.
And
That's
once he got to the league, he just it did, for whatever reasons, things never worked out with him, and they're still not working out. And what's funny is him and Jeff Okuda on the same team now
yeah. Yeah.
in
Hell
Houston,
yeah.
and
Yup.
AJ Terrell, who was the third drafted corner in that class, is still with Atlanta. So I think
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the corner position, I'm gonna get to into my rankings because I'm about first of all, I think when you look at these guys, TJ Tampa and Sarah Still, TJ Tampa, Sarah Still, Bo Melton, another guy,
Max Melton.
Yeah, Bo Melton, his brother, yeah, that
Okay.
played for
Mac.
Green Packers, yeah, Max Melton,
For
the Camarion Richardson. There's a lot of guys. It all depends on what type of system you play, because I think as fans, we got to realize too, we see these guys get drafted, and some of these guys are cover 3 corners, some of them are cover 2 corners,
Yeah.
some of them are better when they can actually keep their eyes on the quarterback and play with their back to the secondary.
Yeah.
Some guys are guys you can throw out there on the perimeter and say, you know what, erase this guy. It depends on what you're looking for. Me personally, I'm still into the traits. I need corners who can play man. I don't need corners who are just zone corners. And when I look at this class, Quinyon Mitchell, you and I agree. You talking about the short area quickness, the straight line speed, the makeup speed, the size, the wingspan, the ball skills,
Mm-hmm.
the way he went to the Senior Bowl and competed against guys he had never seen before a day in his life.
Yeah. He a nightmare, man.
He was,
Yeah.
yeah, to me, he was hands
Mm-hmm.
down the best. Nate Wiggins, another guy, got the confidence, got the Mondo skill set, the speed, the aggressiveness and the run support. Now you can look at him and say, I don't like his size. I don't like what some of the stories were about him when he first got to Clemson. But that Clemson staff said since day one, since he got there, he consistently improved. A guy that had a few immaturity issues for that matter, but they say he's all set to go now. I got Bo Melton as my third corner, and I think he's the third corner simply because 5'11", 195, borderline
Ooh.
200 pounds. You talking about a dude who's a big time athlete, 40.5-inch vertical, 4'3", 40. You're looking at the three cone, the three cone. You're looking at the 10-yard split. He played mainly man
Yeah.
at Rutgers. He can play on the outside. He can play in the slot. To
Mm-hmm.
me, if he went to Alabama, people would give him more love. And I think people are giving those Bama boys this year too much love. When I look at Terrion Arnold, when you go back and you watch the film, first of all, he got exposed at the combine, the lack of athleticism. But to me, he was exposed by LSU.
Mm-hmm.
because them athletes that they got at LSU, you talking about Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors,
Hmm.
those two dudes gave Terrion Arnold the fits.
Yeah. Yeah.
He looked completely overmatched athletically against those guys. And if you can't handle Neighbors and Thomas, what the hell you gonna do on the outside when you got to deal with Justin Jefferson one week,
Yeah.
and then the
Yeah.
next week you got to deal with Jamar Chase, then the next week you got Mike Evans in Tampa Bay coming in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for me, athleticism still matters. Look at these freaks coming into the league. What the hell is a Terrion Arnold? And I don't care how technically sound you may be. The best corners are still top end athletes. Darrell Reeves, as great as Darrell Reeves was technically, he was still an elite athlete. Now, was he just the best of the best, an Olympic sprinter? No, but he was still an elite athlete. All of these guys, Darrell Green, Champ Bailey, Charles Woodson, Aeneas Williams, Dale Carter, who a lot of people may not be familiar with Dale Carter, who may not be our age or whatever, but Dale Carter was another guy that was an elite athlete. Jalen Ramsey, elite athlete. Xavier Rose, when you look at his stretch of a good 4 year span where he was one of the best corners in the league, elite athlete. It's just how it is, man. You have to be that on the outside now. I don't care how technically sound you are. If you're not athletically gifted, there's not a damn thing you doing with DK Metcalf. There's not. Or Calvin Johnson for that matter. Julio Jones. These receivers keep getting bigger and more athletic and more explosive. So you need corners who are also in that same realm. That's why I'm not high on Terrion Arnold. I think Arnold has been overhyped all season. I think he's a slot corner. There's a lot of Lions fans that want Arnold at 29. I think you're silly unless you want Terrion Arnold as a slot and that's it. Because if you're going to draft Terrion Arnold simply because he is an Alabama corner and everybody assumes Alabama corners are big time athletes and they're this, they're that, you're going to be sadly mistaken. Another corner, DeCarrion, was it? I want to make sure I pronounce his name correctly. DeCamarion Richardson of Mississippi State. Now, what I think he has going against him, Emmanuel Forbes coming out of Mississippi State a year ago was around the same kind of, height, 6'2". I think Forbes measured in at 177 at the combine, though. So he was about 6, 7 pounds, even lighter than Richardson. But Richardson is, even though they ran relatively the same 40 time, 4.34 to 4.37, I believe, he's a guy who's better in coverage, more sticky in coverage. His change of direction is way better than what Forbes was. And I was a guy, I think, because I had Forbes rated as my number 2 corner year last year behind Christian Gonzalez. And I was a guy, I admit it, I got caught up in the straight line speed. But that straight line speed didn't really mean much because at the end of the day,
I do
what do
too.
teams do?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like
they,
the
they,
speed, man. I
they
like the
got
speed.
physical.
Yeah, yeah, yep. And I think
Now, that doesn't mean he can't improve on his rookie year, but, it's just, I think the cornerback position is still a position of, first of all, what type of coverage, what type of scheme do you run?
yeah,
Are you mainly a cover 3 team? Because most teams are running more cover 3 zone now. Are you a guy that plays better with your back to the football? Are you a guy that plays better with everything in front of you? You can read the quarterback, you can read the
hmm
motions, you can
yeah,
read everything. That's
yeah.
a guy
That's
like Jarvis Brown Lee, who I know you was
y'all
going to bring
love
up.
for Louisville. Oh
Yeah, he's a
man,
guy
that
that's better with his
yes,
face when he's facing the quarterback.
yes. And I think, like you said, Walt, I think we do need a smart football player with with instincts like that. I just don't it seem like that's what we lacking? You know what I'm saying? Just think about it. We got guys who can tackle, sure tacklers. I'm big on make the play if you dare tackle, get them down, that type of thing. But it seemed like the games that the Lions had trouble and and they didn't start out the gate well. Games that we actually lost last year was teams jumped on us at the receiver position. They couldn't run the ball. Think about it, they couldn't run the ball on us. So those games where we were kind of indecisive, I think in the cornerback play is like that was our biggest downfall. And I think when we get into the question, how important is a cornerback? I think it is, but I think you got to be careful because for everybody that wants a corner, he better damn be ready to play. I mean, in my opinion, I don't think that I've been saying it for the last year now. You don't
These
need a
OCs will baptize you.
yeah,
That's
right.
what it's hard about being a corner in the league
It's
because if when
hard,
you when
man.
you the new guy, when you the
Right.
new guy, these OCs they gonna seek you out and they relentless. They have
Yeah.
no remorse. If they can destroy you every week, they will. Look what happened to Cam Sutton. Once
Yeah.
teams saw, so he's not good at this and he's not
Mhm.
good at that,
Yeah.
and we got a number one. Let's torch his ass. And
Right.
that's what they're gonna do to you every single week. And I think that's why a lot of corners is mental with a lot of these corners.
Right.
We seen
Right.
so many corners that had the athleticism, the skills, but look at Okuda. Okuda got burnt so much early, even before the injury. I think his confidence was shot,
Yeah. Messed his head
and
up.
he just
Right.
never recovered from it.
Right. And a lot of these guys, like I think Jeremy just said it. He said Ames Rakeshaw's overrated. And I thought that too. I agree with Jeremy. I thought that too at first. Before I seen, now I had to go back. I really did have to go back and see. Now I get it. It's easy to pump your chest, and it's easy to hold up the number one finger when you playing Abilene Christian, you know what I'm saying, with no quarterback, and you stop and a guy who would never even play, D1 football, that type of thing. So I get it. Yeah, I do, and I think you hit on a very good point, Walt. The last point you was making about when you are. I think the talent you go against makes you better. I really do believe that. That's why I like Kyrie Jackson. That's why I like you said, Nate Wiggins. I like a couple guys because when you got world class offenses, and you're playing like the Pac-12, everybody laugh at them. At least I do sometimes. Like it's not a real conference, but they do specialize in offense. You know what I'm saying? And I do think that you can't play corner for none of those teams if you at least have some quickness. You know what I'm saying, or some ball skills. You're not gonna play cornerback out there. So
Not at
that's
this day and age.
in
Like
this day and
it's
age
just
with
being
Lincoln
real about
Riley.
it.
Yeah, Lincoln
Yeah.
Riley out there. We with Chip Kelly with UCLA this year, even though he's gone now. But I'm just saying, like the offense they was running, and Lincoln Riley come from Oklahoma, coming to USC. You got Oregon, who was lethal. It's always better to play against better competition. And I think if anybody that's the only thing you might can question Quinyon Mitchell, because you could say, well, they have athletes in that conference. They have, guys that can play at receiver,
Yeah, he
but
played Ohio State. I mean, coming from was it the
yeah,
MAC? Yeah, at Toledo. So
yeah,
coming from the MAC, you're gonna play some big time competition. Not necessarily in that conference, but from
yeah.
time to time, you're gonna play your Michigans. You're gonna play your
Yeah,
Ohio
they played
States.
Michigan this year. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so that's all I'm saying. I mean, I won't question it because I've seen enough to see. I've seen enough of Quinyon Mitchell to know that this guy, he a ball player, man. Stuff like that. So, um, it's almost like I said, a lot of these guys are built the same. A lot of these guys have the same makeup in some areas. Some of them are a little bit more athletic than others. I, I,
Yeah.
I really do think, man. I like you said. Well, I think
That's why I
more than
like Melton so much.
yeah,
Melton
more.
reminds me a lot of Jair Alexander.
Yep,
Then
yep.
when you look at his background, brother went to Rutgers, plays for the Green Bay Packers. I think his mom went to Rutgers, dad went to Rutgers. Very athletic family. For me, a lot of that matters.
Mm-hmm.
The background matters. Now I know I don't work for the NFL, so I don't dig too deep into these players' backgrounds. But I mentioned to you the same thing about like offensive linemen, like guards who wrestled in college or guards who wrestled in high school and played basketball, whatever. Typically, athletes, especially when it comes to football, guys who play multiple sports, play baseball, play basketball.
Yeah,
Those sports make you a more well-rounded football player. And I've
yeah.
always felt that way. And like I said, when I look at Bo Melton, keep saying his brother. When I look at Max Melton, man,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
5'11,
Yeah.
almost 200 pounds. I love that size
Yep.
combination right there.
He a
Talking about
menace,
the
man.
guy who had the straight line speed. He
Yep.
played majority man. They made him a man corner at Rutgers. He can play some slot. He can play on the perimeter. He has a decent enough size. Granted, he's not 6'2", but I'm cool with 5'11, 200.
Yeah.
He's rocked up. You looked at him at the combine. This is a dude who's built. He
They
reminds
put
me like of
together.
a bigger Clark Phillips. And he's
Mm-hmm.
like bigger and more athletic than Clark Phillips was a year ago, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm cool with Bo Melton. I mean, Bo. I'm cool with Max Melton.
Max Melton. Yeah, I know
I've
you
been
mean
looking
from
at Melton.
Rutgers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Max Melton from
Yeah, they
Rutgers. Yep.
both went to Rutgers. Yeah, but it's
Mm-hmm.
funny because when I watched, I was watching Chris Sims break down his top 5 corners, and when he had Melton, I think he had Bo Melton as number 3, also a number 4.
Mm-hmm.
I get it because when he comes to the cornerback position, he broke it down how he views it the same way I view it. You
Yeah.
got too many athletic freaks coming into the league at wide receiver for you to feel like athleticism doesn't matter at corner. It matters a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't handle these dudes on the perimeter, you're gonna find your ass in the slot. And then when you in the slot and they see, oh, so he doesn't have the short area quickness to handle a Keenan
Yeah.
Allen
Bye.
or a Rome Madunze
Right.
or a Lad McConkey or whatever,
They
or a
run right
Zay
by you.
Flowers.
They
Zay
run right
Flowers,
by
yeah,
you.
is you have to be athletic. You have
Yeah.
to have the traits nowadays. You have to either be a big physical corner that can run like Tariq Woolen of Seattle, or like I said, a guy you look at Darrell Reeves. Reeves didn't have the best measurables. Reeves was 5'10 and a half, one something. I think but he was another guy that was rocked up. He was straight line fast enough. He had the hips, he had the instincts. So it's difficult to find corners that possess all of these things. But usually, man, the guys who are considered the top guys usually get to the league and they become the top guys. Now,
Yeah.
once you start reaching for some of these other dudes, I think
Yeah.
is where, like you said, Jeff Okuda. Jeff Okuda played well at Ohio State, but Jeff Okuda came across to me as a finished product. And
Yeah.
when he did face the receivers, what happened? Like Nico Collins abused him when Nico was back at Michigan that last year before Jeff Okuda left. Like when he did get matched up against big time receivers, it didn't work.
Yeah.
That's why I looked at Jeff Okuda when we took him as that was sort of a FU pick. I thought by your boy before they walked out the door.
Before they
They knew
walked
they
out
were
the door.
they knew that they were walking into a lame duck season. Why in the hell would you really believe that a corner at 3 made the most sense for us? You
Yeah.
didn't care about doing what was best for the organization. That was more of a FU pick.
Yeah, I
When
remember
you yeah,
Patricia made the pick. I remember it was during COVID and we were watching the draft and he was doing everything virtual. And I remember he made that pick, dude, and his everybody was online, but it just like you said, it was kind of like a snide, like, like I'm a
we know
I'm a screw.
Stafford's out of here after this year, but
Yeah,
so are
that
we,
type of
so
thing.
screw y'all.
Yeah, so the whole thing that was weird. That whole thing we picked him was weird, but yeah,
Think
I,
about how
I'm
many weird picks they made when they were here, though.
yeah.
They
I
made tons
mean,
of weird picks.
yeah, because I want ball players, and I think that the bottom line is that uh, Brad Holmes has done that. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like now the expectations of the draft in Detroit, it's different because remember in the past we would just make fun and just laugh and say, we're gonna take the wrong guy, and it's just like we never picked the right guy. Now I mean I think the growing theme is excuse me, that Brad Holmes takes injured players, which I don't get that narrative. I mean, last year, yeah, we took Jameson Williams and we took, I think, Josh Pascal the year before that, who was knowingly
Levi
had
was hurt.
had hurt knowingly. And Levi Onwuzurike. And two, I mean, I you gotta still bring that up because technically, if you keep in score, those players really haven't really panned out yet. I mean, Josh Pascal's made some flashes, you know what I'm saying? And remember, we even said that how I think the direction he goes in the draft, especially early, is going to determine how he feels about Josh Pascal. How does he feel about James Houston, man? Levi Onwuzurike, or even Marcus Davenport. Remember, we brought back Kendall Vildor this week. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say we're not going to draft a cornerback now, or we're not going to draft a defensive lineman, like a guy like. Let's go into the defensive part of it. Well, the defensive lineman slash linebackers, however you want to put it, but a guy like I had it written down, Brian Murphy. I was looking for Brian Murphy from Texas. I mean, Brian Murphy is like just like Tavon. Sweat is like the more dominant run stopper, but I think Brian Murphy's a guy like you can get sacks out of him. You can get quarterback pressures out of him with his hand in the dirt, that type of thing. So you would so the line any Lions elitists would say, well, why would you take Byron Murphy when you got you know took Broderick Martin, you we signed DJ Reader, you know what I'm saying,
Different
free agency,
players.
different play. That's what I'm saying. But what I'm getting at is people that don't know, they would say, well, why would you take that guy? And this is why, because I think he's a difference maker. Like last year, he's my Miles Murphy from last year from Clemson. I think wound up going to Cincinnati. I think. Well, I
Yeah.
really wanted Miles Murphy, you know what I'm saying? And I thought that he could be a guy that we could use on that defensive line because I think we constantly got to keep that part of our team strong because I just think about it. I mean, I think the thing that holds true in the NFL is it changes. Some now we're in I think in the offense wins era with Patrick Mahomes, right? You know what I'm saying? Where you got to be able to score, and the Lions for the most part was able to score at will sometimes. You know what I'm saying on other teams. So, but I do think you still got to win at the line of scrimmage. I do think that always holds true. You know what I'm saying? So the Lions got some question marks, man. That's the only thing I don't like. It's a gray area, that part of our team because we don't know how much they're dependent on Anzarike. You know what I'm saying, Walt? Or is he really not like fighting for? Is he fighting for his job? Is
Man, listen, I'm
he on the
glad you brought
roster?
that up because that raises the question of are you too it gets to a point where I understand, and it's not just football, it's like with anything in life. Sometimes you can be loyal to a fault.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all cool with rewarding guys for sticking around and being team guys and developing and this and that. But you have to make sure you don't reach a point in time where you're just bringing guys back because you like them, simply because they're
Mm-hmm.
your guys. Um, Jeremy brought up a point about what is it? Here you go. Says 22 of 23 draft picks still on a roster. Only one non is that Chase Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
That's understandable, but how many of those guys are like big time impact players? Because Levi is one of those guys. He's one of those 22 and he's done nothing. Pascal is one of those guys. Depending on how much production you expected out of him coming out of Kentucky
We've
and how
seen
healthy
flashes,
yeah, I mean, we've seen
flashes.
flashes, but to
Yeah.
me, Josh is a rotational guy. And I like Josh. I like Josh Pascal coming out of Kentucky.
Me too.
But I
Yeah.
never believed Josh Pascal was going to be some big time pass rusher, some big time run stopper. He's a guy like similar to Quiddy Pay. I could play some three tech depending on who the guard is and what the blocking scheme is. If there's any duo going on, Josh is washed out.
Mm-hmm.
That's period. I can
Yeah.
play a little bit of four tech. You can line me up over some tackles. I think he's a guy that's the type of contribution you're going to get from Josh Pascal is all based on a Sunday to Sunday basis, based on what type of offensive line you're going against and what type of blocking scheme they have. But
Mm-hmm.
we haven't gotten really a lot of big impact from him. Aleem McNeil's been a good player,
Mm-hmm.
but would I put Aleem McNeil in the conversation as elite or even maybe one of the 10 best defensive tackles in football? I don't know. Because
Mm-hmm.
once you start naming defensive tackles off, you're talking about the Dexter Lawrences of the world and the Quentin Williams and the Chris Joneses and
Christian Wilkins. Yeah.
yeah, so I can't put him in that category with those guys because he's not that caliber of a player. So I don't think it's enough to just have guys that stuck around on the roster because sticking around the roster means doesn't mean they earned it. It just
Mm-hmm.
means you chose to either not upgrade from those players or you just really like your guys. You want to keep your guys around. But if we just keeping it 100 about the 22 of the 23 guys Brad Holmes has drafted, big impact. St.
Mm-hmm.
Brown, big impact. Sam Laporta, big impact. Panay Sewell.
Jameer Gibbs. Yeah.
Yeah, Jameer Gibbs. These are
Mm-hmm.
first round picks. Like Panay Sewell was a generational talent coming out of high school. St. Brown had no damn business being drafted where he was drafted. Branch had no business being drafted where he was drafted. Branch was a first round talent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we it's not like we just got 22 big time players. We got some guys that can play. But I mean, if those 22 or 23 guys were that high level, we wouldn't be sitting here right now as Lions fans discussing how do we get more big time players? How do we
Yeah.
get cornerstone players?
Yeah.
Because this defense, especially, still needs some type of difference makers.
Then that's what I've been saying, Walt, from the start. You look at this draft. how many picks we got? Can you pull that up? Just look on your side. How many draft? I just want to know how many draft as we stand now with no trades or anything yet. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know why people seem to think, okay, right now we've turned the corner, I believe. I mean, and don't tell Minnesota Vikings fans that because they killed me this week on a comment saying we wasn't shit still. But okay, we got
I
seven
expect them
picks.
to.
Okay. And then so have 7 picks, right? Some will say a successful draft would be draft all 7 picks and they all have to start and they all have to play and they all have to. You don't need to do that. You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying is you can trade out of some of those spots and move up and get some guys. It's you know what I'm saying, and to get 4 impact. I've been saying it. You get 4 impact guys on this in this draft, and you good. You know what I'm saying? Not guys,
I don't even think they
rotational
need
guys.
4. I
We
think if
we
they if
got
they can get 2, if we
two
hit a
guys
home
on.
run with 2 guys, yeah.
If we can draft a corner that could just a day one he can start. Well, not a guy you got to develop him and baby him and have the kid gloves on. No, whoever that guy is, and it's a lot of them out in this draft. You find the right one. If you can get a cornerback to start right now, I'm good with that. I'm willing to take him at 29. I want somebody who can start, not a guy who's oh man, he came to training camp and we found out he's not ready yet. Oh, we came to
Oh,
training
you
camp,
mean
we
like
find out that
the typical Dan Campbell stuff and Brad Holmes, which is
yeah, yep.
he's coming along. Like I don't want to hear week
Yeah,
7
like Jack Camp.
talking
Remember
about
Jack Camp when
Nate Wiggins is coming along. Like I don't
nah,
want to hear
nah,
that.
hell no. I don't see that's what I'm
Quinyon
saying.
Mitchell is coming along. Like
Coming along.
if
No.
we traded up for Quinyon Mitchell, there's
Mhm,
no damn way in hell it's week 5 and you telling me he's not playing. He's playing behind Vildor
that's what
because
I'm saying.
Quinyon
No.
Mitchell has to earn his spot. I don't want to hear that shit. I don't.
Mhm. Yeah. I
If
want
you
some
draft
guy.
Quinyon Mitchell, play him.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. For me, I'm big on Edgerrin Cooper from Texas A&M. If you draft
Yep.
him, Edgerrin Cooper, you can't tell me he's not one of the best guys coming off the edge right now. If you drafted that kid right now, he's probably the best guy other than A Nuts. You know what I'm saying? Don't like you said. Don't tell me that he's sitting on the bench, man.
He's
Or
not
Chris.
good enough to help us.
Yeah, Jeremy. I would love Chris Braswell. I would love it. I mean, I don't see no harm in taking Chris Braswell at all. I don't think he'd be there, but I hope he will be at 61. That would be great.
Elite pass rusher, but
Mhm.
once again, well, he's not elite at the run. He's bad at run defense. I give him that. But some guys are
Mhm.
specialist guys. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean that he can't get better
Yeah.
defending the run at the next level. But some guys are what they are.
Yeah, yep, yep. And Jeremy, it's funny. Jeremy said that. We can go. That's a perfect segue. We actually could. While we got some time to go into the running back. 'Cause Jeremy put a good point. He was saying that why is Jamar Jefferson still on roster? And I kind of said the same thing. I was a Jamar Jefferson guy. He just never panned out for whatever reason. But I think the running back situation, that's another thing, Walt, we could talk about. I think people think we're automatically set because we got 2 guys, right? And I do. We all agree. I think everybody in this whole city or state will agree Jameer Gibbs is like everything we want, right? Number
A
one,
weapon.
number
Yeah.
one running back. Okay. David Montgomery, been highly successful every year he's been in the league. He's what 6 years in now. I think if I'm not mistaken, I don't have his stats in front. I think it's 6 years, and he's been highly productive every year. You get long in the tooth, man. You know what I'm saying? When that time clock goes on running backs, it goes quick. You know what I'm saying? And I do this. I think not saying that Montgomery needs to be replaced. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this year, play same role. Remember, we signed him for 2 years. We got him one more year. I do think you need to replenish another back in that spot, man. That third running back, maybe a platoon member. Injuries happen. We might need a guy that might have to shoulder the load with Gibbs, or if Gibbs misses some time, maybe to bring another guy in with Montgomery. I'm saying, and all due respect to Craig Reynolds, God bless him. You know what I'm saying? But I want another guy there, man, that I could use. You know what I'm saying? Young legs. I think we do. I think we can all agree. I think me and you Walt kind of agreed a little bit during the pre-show that we need a guy that's bigger in stature. You know what I'm saying? I used the AJ Dillon comparison to the Packers. We got a great offensive line. Like you said, Kevin Zeitler is going to be a welcome addition, I think, to this team for next year. And we need to keep that. Remember, the strongest our offensive line and our running back situation is, better Jared Goff's going to be. And you need to have that tight. That's the strength of our team. So I got some guys as far as running back goes. I think this is a running back can be. I think you could take any back you want. I think that's how wide open it is, because I don't think a running back's going in the first 2 rounds. Maybe I don't.
Whoa,
I don't see a
whoa!
talent like
I
that.
think no. I think they definitely. There's about probably three that'll go in a second, depending on. I think there's teams like the Chiefs who could be looking for a more well-rounded, explosive back because now you're talking about we're still in the prime of we're in the prime. I think Mahomes is still in the prime of his career. As much as I think Pacheco's a good player. Going back to
Mhm.
when he came out, when they drafted him, I said that he was eventually going to become the starter over Clyde Edwards-Helaire. People thought I was crazy. Oh, he was a 7th round pick. You really think a 7th round pick is going to beat out Helaire? And what happened?
Mhm.
He beat out Helaire by the end of his rookie season, became the guy. So the running back position, man, I think it comes down to what your flavor is. Because
Mhm.
if you're Detroit, granted, I agree with you 1,000%. Plus, Montgomery was beat up last season. He was nicked up from game to
Yep.
game, and running backs are going to get hurt. So yeah, it may sound terrible, but as Lions fans, at the end of the day, it's a business. I think
Mhm.
Montgomery understands that, and
Yep.
Gibbs is good. Gibbs is going to the guy that's going to be here longer than me. If I'm Montgomery, that's what I'm thinking right now. Gibbs, they spent the 1st round pick on this kid. He's ultra talented. He's going to outlast me here. So I need to make the most money and make the most of my opportunities. So that way, if Detroit decides to not bring me back after this next season or the season after that, I can still go make some money somewhere else.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Of course.
I agree 1,000%. I think the running back position, man. Now I'm not with some Lions fans who say, "Oh, use that 2nd round pick on Blake Corum." I think that's idiotic.
Yeah, I wouldn't
We
do
got
that.
one 1st round pick. I'm not taking a running back. We got a 2nd round pick. One, I'm not taking a running back. We got one 3rd round pick. I'm not investing my 3rd round pick in the damn running back.
Mhm.
Now, what we got 2 6th round picks, but
Yeah.
there's some running backs that could be there in the 6th round that can
That's
help us
that was my point. My point. Look,
tremendously.
look. Well, I mean, who I'm getting ready to say. I got two guys that I like, that I think could be there. Dylan Johnson from Washington, 6 foot, 217. Not the fastest guy in the world. You know what I mean? He ran a 4.6 in the combine. Dylan Johnson, listen, is a ball player, man. We seen him playing the national championship game. I watched him all year. You know what I'm saying, with Washington. Got the tough yards. I think we need a big back like that. You know what I'm saying? Well, we got the quickness. We don't, we need a guy that can bruise, late in the game. I think, like you said, like I was saying earlier, I think AJ Dillon's the perfect guy, like the Packers got. He's a guy. There you go. Jeremy just mentioned Trey Benson. I love Trey Benson, just like Walt does. Walt brought him up, and I kind of looked at his film. Trey Benson is a guy I definitely would take. I mentioned he was the first guy. Actually, I had Jonathan Brooks on my list, but he may be a guy, Walt, that might go. Him or what's the kid from USC?
Marshawn Lloyd.
Marshawn Lloyd. I was about to say
Yeah.
Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lloyd. Them two guys might get drafted early, but yeah, and I like Braylon Allen from Wisconsin. It's not the same. That's not your daddy's Wisconsin Badgers anymore, but I do like him. He's got the size, 6'1", 235. I think we need, and he runs a
Or
4.4.
if you
You
want to
know,
get super explosive, take Jalen Wright. Now, Jalen Wright is 5'11", 210. I like that size at the running back position. But Jalen Wright is another big time 60, 70-yard run waiting to happen.
from Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yep,
And
like him.
Jeremy mentioned Billy Riggins Jr. It's funny too, because I know Fidel, if Fidel's still watching, we interviewed Billy Riggins Jr. about, I think, 4 months ago? 4 months ago on LinkedIn. Yeah, very, very talented back. Very talented back.
Yeah,
So yeah, I
yep,
mean, you can find a running back help pretty much anywhere, man. That's why I'm not.
yeah. You
I
can get
said
one.
this last week. When it comes to the running back position for me, unless you're viewed as a generational talent, like an AP, Adrian Peterson, a Saquon Barkley, even though I thought Saquon had no business going as high as he did, I can
What?
view take or No, Saquon as big of a talent. Saquon was like the Reggie Bush of his era at that point in time at Penn State. I thought Larry Johnson, when Larry Johnson was at Penn State, I thought Larry was going to be the next Earl Campbell, bro.
Huh.
But what? No, he was no. When Larry got to the league, he was tearing it up. But what happened? That 500 carry season,
Oh,
Kansas
yeah,
City destroyed him. After
yeah.
that 500 carry season, Larry Johnson was never the same. Jamal Anderson for
Mhm.
Atlanta, 500 carry season was
Yeah.
never the same after that. Eddie George, 500 carry season was never the same after that. But
Mhm.
running
Yeah.
backs last so much more now because you're not going to see a 500 carry running back
Yep.
unless Jim Harbaugh do that crazy shit
Yeah,
with
I
the
told you.
with the
Yeah, my
Chargers.
guy. Yeah, my guy's got to be 6 foot. Two. I want him 215, 220. Now a guy I would consider it a little bit under is Audric Estime
Yeah,
from Notre Dame. Went to Michigan State, transferred. I really like him. 38-inch vertical, super athletic.
yeah.
Yeah, Jamal
Jamal
Lewis. I was
Lewis
just gonna
too.
think of Fidel, right? Yep. And Audrey Stimmy's not the fast guy like Dylan Johnson, man. But those two guys, I think Fidel even said it. He would be a perfect fit to give Washington. Yeah, and it's like that's how I kind of feel with Stemmy too. Both I think those two guys can be had, and we don't have to pay a dime for it. You know what I'm saying? You can
You
get
think about
him.
Isaiah Davis, like
Yeah, that's your South Dakota
six
guy. Yep.
two, six
Yeah.
two, two
Yep.
twenty.
Yep. I like him. I like him. And what's the other kid from Kentucky? I don't even. Oh man,
Ray Davis,
Ray Davis, another guy. But I like your guy too,
a lot of
Isaiah
carries.
Davis. I like Isaiah Davis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think with
Mhm.
our offensive line, man, if you look at the talent at running back in this draft, Marshawn, like if we didn't have Jameer Gibbs in
Mhm.
Montgomery, Marshawn Lloyd could be a 1,000-yard back behind our offensive line. Mayan Williams of Ohio State. I know a lot of Lions fans aren't that high on him, but
Mhm.
he's another guy.
Yeah.
Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks is a question with him because, for one, he played behind some damn good running backs. You're talking about Rashawn Johnson, who the
Oh
Bears
man.
drafted a year ago. Of course, you got a generational talent in your boy from last year, the running back for Texas. Uh
B. John.
Bijan,
Yeah.
Bijan Robinson. So when he finally got his opportunity, he got hurt. Now, the
Mhm.
good thing about Jonathan Brooks is going back to what we talked about in the pre-show. Personally, if I was a running back, I would get in and out of college as quick as possible. I want to
Mhm.
start the clock on me making money in the
Yeah.
NFL as quick as possible.
The tread
There's
of
no
them
way as a
tires,
running
boy.
back. Yeah, I don't care if I had the college stats or not. If I'm an athletic running back like Jordan Brooks, there's not a lot of film on Jordan Brooks because he got hurt. And before he got hurt, he was playing behind two stud running backs. But how I look at the running back position now, I'm looking at traits. Okay, you played at Ohio State, you played at Texas, you played at Michigan behind a bunch of other running backs, Alabama. Look at that stable of running backs that Alabama had that one year with Derrick Henry and Kamara and they had a bunch of guys. Was it
Mhm.
Jacobs? They had Jacobs there. They had Ingram at one point in time. I want running backs that are completely laced with a lot of tread still left on the tires.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then Fidel brought up a good point. I see his comment says, about golf contract. I was kind of wondering that to end St. Brown. It seemed like they haven't said it. They haven't said anything about
Hookers in Vegas. What?
Sid Hooker. uh,
Disgusting.
so you know what I'm saying? Well, they haven't said anything about St. Brown or golf. You know what I'm saying? Contract. I was thinking you were going to kind of hear some traction on that, and they haven't said anything. So they hold that real tight to the vest. And I think that to bring up Hendon Hooker, I think that that's like taboo around here. You know what I'm saying? To not you know, talk about like, well, you can't bring up Hendon Hooker around here. You know what I'm saying?
Oh no, you
Because
can't.
Hendon Hooker can't play, and Jared Goff's quarterback, and
Yeah.
I think it's something to it. I think that Hendon Hooker ultra got talent that can play. You know what I'm saying? But it's just not time yet. I mean, that's the only thing I can say about it to give Lions fans that you got to keep a guy. I'd rather keep a guy. On our roster like him and maybe say, hey, you know what I'm saying? You gotta be ready, that type of thing.
Oh no,
Just
why would you
keep it.
trade him? I mean, I know
It
Fidel's just joking, but like
no,
Lions fans
of
that
course,
want
of
him
course.
gone, like why
Yeah,
would you get rid of a backup quarterback in
right.
this day and age? Granted, Goff's been pretty sturdy throughout his entire career, going back to the Rams, but anything can happen.
Yeah.
Anything can happen. Quarterbacks get hurt. Players get hurt. So you want to make sure you have a capable backup.
Yeah, and that's a big time
Sudfeld,
discussion. Yep, big time discussion around here because I think that you know the quarterback position is important. You know what I'm saying? And I think right now, ever since Sean Hill, we haven't had even a viable backup. Brad Kaya and Jake
Jake,
Rudock,
yeah,
and you know what I'm saying. It just it's been a joke. I mean, nobody
yeah.
that's going to be seriously ever be an NFL quarterback. So I do think you keep Hendon Hooker around and you let him play. You keep doing what you're doing. I mean, that's all. And I think all that kind of stuff will work itself out. You know what I'm saying? Because make no mistake about it. Let's just say Goff stands the test of time, gets another 3-year deal or something like that, and we get some stuff done, get where we need to go as a franchise. And when it's time, I believe Hooker will get a shot. You know what I mean? I don't think it's like a disrespect to him or anything. First of all, he was like coming out of college and he was hurt. Exactly. He was coming back. And he last year was the rehab year. I think now this year could be really like Hooker can focus on ball and plays
No, he's
and
good now. Remember,
with
he,
his
he tore
receivers.
his because what
Yeah.
Jameson tore his ACL in the national championship game, I think,
Yeah. Yep.
against Georgia. So, or was the playoff or was the actual national championship? Either way, I
I
forgot.
thought it might have been the playoff game. I think it might have
Yeah,
been. Yeah.
but Hooker when he tore his, he plays a way less explosive position on the field, of course, at quarterback. Hooker
Mhm.
tore his, I believe, all the way back in November.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, he's ready to go. It's just that it's weird how taboo some Lions fans are around. They don't want you bringing the Hooker's name at all, and
Yeah.
you should welcome the guy because if Golf gets hurt, whether we talking about a broken thumb, a torn ACL, a nagging rib injury, anything, it's football. Players
Mhm.
get hurt, anything can happen.
Yeah.
You don't want to root against your backup quarterback. And if you're a Lions fan, you should be putting the success of the organization and the team ahead of your own biases.
Yeah.
I don't care who's the quarterback. I just want to win. I don't care if Goff gets hurt and Hooker comes in and has some Kurt Warner type magical ride. I'm cool with that. I just want to
Mhm.
win. But we have to have a capable backup because Sudfeld isn't it. He's been proven to not be it. So you should want to. And Jeremy brought up a valid point about wanting to see how Hooker looks this preseason. How much do you need to see from Hooker
Mhm.
this
Right.
this
Right.
preseason? Like, how much should he play?
I want to see. No, that's a very good question. Well, That's the next thing I was gonna say. For me, the next step for Hendon Hooker is like you said, preseason. He should be in there. You know what I'm saying? He should be in there. He should be playing. I think Nate Sudfeld's still on the roster too. Like you said, Goff's not going to play, but yeah, that's the next. Remember, we didn't see Hendon Hooker at all last year, so I think the next step, you know, with his development is he's going to be out there with maybe the Antoine Greens of the world, you know what I'm saying, the Shane Zylstra's in preseason maybe, and I want to see see what he does, you know what I'm saying. So yeah, so it's always a good thing to have another quarterback in your system.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about running back, I mean receivers. I got it right here, Walt.
So how
You
big is the gap? Because we about to get a lot of
mhm,
varied opinions on this between Marvin Harrison Jr. If you feel there's a gap from Marvin
mhm.
Harrison Jr. and everybody else, and if there is, how big of a gap is it?
Yeah, very good question. Well, oh man, I hope I don't get killed for this. I really don't, but I think it ain't that big. I mean, I don't think that. I think Marvin Harrison is the most talented, of course. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, just look at the DNA, just look at the bloodline, just look at you, just that alone. Like, okay, because somebody brought up the question, like, how can you say that about him? But then when I bring up Brendan Rice, Jerry Rice's son, you don't say the same thing about him. Very good question. I think that, like you said, I think you made a very good point during the pre-show, was saying that they been grooming him since he was 7. Marvin Harrison Jr., you know what I'm saying, to be an NFL receiver at this spot. Same thing with Jerry Rice. I mean, I'm sure Jerry Rice has been grooming his son since he's been, you know what I'm saying, to be a receiver.
But the
But
physical attributes aren't
but I
there.
was there we go.
But like that's
I was
common
getting
sense
to it.
sometimes, man.
Yeah.
Just They're not the same player.
Right. And I think that, Marvin Harrison just got
I
given
like Rice.
talent. I like Brandon Rice too. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? But yeah, Marvin Harrison is like the gap is far between him and Brandon Rice. I think it's a
yeah.
little bit closer if you was to say him and Adonze, him and Malik Neighbors. I mean, I think Malik Neighbors does some things, but I just think Marvin Harrison is just flat out like that number one guy. You know what I'm saying? That you would want, Lions. I don't think we got no chance to get Marvin Harrison Jr. You know what I'm saying? But Malik Neighbors, Adunze. I like Brian Thomas. I don't think you really high on him like I am. I like Xavier Liggett more than I do the kid from Texas. Not Xavier Worthy.
He's a.
Mitchell.
I just think
You know.
I think Thomas is damn near a carbon copy of DJ Chark, which is funny because they both went to the same school. They both went to LSU.
Mm-hmm.
Same exact height, like
Yeah.
physical profile, 4.3 speed. Both guys were big time physical talents at LSU, but were
Mm-hmm.
inconsistent as hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, Thomas hasn't been that injured, but there's been talks about his attitude, his persona. Teams around the league in interviews can't really get a read on him, so they kind of scared off by him because of his personality or whatever.
Yeah.
I just saw a lot of inconsistencies with Tom as far as the route running, the effort. When you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about in the run game, Malik Neighbors was out there in the run game doing his thing, blocking. All of them were. He just came across to me as a guy who's kind of hit or miss. And
Yes.
then for him to be that size, have that vertical and that speed and those ball skills, contested catch wise, he wasn't that consistent either, which was weird for a guy who's 6'3" and jumps the way he jumps and has the catch radius. So, I mean, I think Thomas is decent, but I just think Marvin comes across as the boring prospect.
Yeah.
He plays like a coach's son, and we talked about in the pre-show Marvin Harrison Jr. and the sit down that him and his son had when they first got to Ohio State. Senior talked about, hey, listen, we've been coaching and grooming Junior since he was 7 years old to be a wide receiver in the NFL. He
Mm-hmm.
does all of the little nuanced things well as a wide receiver. Remember, Justin Jefferson wasn't physically impressive. And I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people, they view Neighbors and other guys as being better than Harrison because, well, Neighbors ran the faster 40 and Harrison he didn't run a 40 and he didn't compete in
Mm-hmm.
any of the athletic drills. But when you watch it on film,
Yeah.
the little things, the nuances of the route game, when you look at Brian Hartline in Ohio State, there's a reason why those Ohio State boys don't fail when they get to the league. We done seen some LSU boys fail.
Mm-hmm.
Wide receivers, Kayshawn Boutte is probably the most recent who failed coming out of LSU. We seen some guys. Your boy that went to the Carolina that hasn't really done much either. So
Terrence Marshall.
yeah, Terrace Marshall. But
Mm-hmm.
there's a reason why those Ohio State boys get to the league and they hit the ground running. All of them.
Yeah.
Because they get challenged. They run a full NFL route tree for damn sure. Brian
Mhm.
Hartline is one of the best wide receiver coaches in football.
Yeah.
And when you look at Harrison Jr., I look at the little things. When he runs his comebacks, his curls, everything that brings him back to the quarterback, he reaches out and he plucks the ball consistently. That right there is the difference between an incompletion, a completion, and an interception. When he comes back for the football, he comes back. He doesn't just stand there and wait for the football to come to him.
Mhm.
He
Yeah.
works his way back to the football consistently, plucks the ball with his hands, gets upfield, gets moving. I didn't see that from Neighbors consistently. And I for damn sure didn't see that from Brian Thomas. Now, a lot of that had to do with the fact that at LSU, their offense passing wise is predominantly outside the boundary on the perimeter. So you're
Correct.
not going to see a lot of him doing that. But if we're talking about doing all the little things, he does all of the little things at a high level. And you're talking about the catch radius, and you're talking about the hands, and you're talking about
Mhm.
the son of an all-time great.
Mhm.
Now,
And I.
Brendan Rice is a completely different type of. He's a bulldog.
Mhm.
He's physical. He's aggressive
Yeah.
as hell.
Chip on his. He played with a chip on his shoulder. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
he
So.
plays like a guy who
Mhm.
has heard his whole life, "Well, you Jerry Rice son."
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
feels like he has to dispel that myth. I'm my
And
own guy.
and just what we addressed what Fidel said, and he's right. You know what I'm saying about Xavier Worthy. I think too. I said it the minute he ran his 40, everybody fell in love with it. I like Xavier Worthy. I think remember on our mock draft, I think we took
Thanks,
Xavier
Jeremy.
Worthy. I think
That's the same thing I noticed. But go ahead.
I think that that Xavier Worthy was a guy that we took in our mock draft. I think you left that pick
Yeah.
up to me, and we took him at 29. Yes, he's absolutely going to go in the first round. I think so. Xavier Worthy. You know what I'm saying? Jeremy's right. That's a perfect Raiders pick. You know what I mean? I think that that's a
Old
guy.
school Raiders.
Old school Raiders. So I like Xavier. I think he more can play. I don't think he's just a guy that's out there with some wheels that can run. I
No,
think he
he's
really
not
can.
Marquise Brown. Like
Yeah,
he,
he
if you
could.
compare him to the other little short receivers, he's a good football player.
Yeah, he can play. You know what I'm saying? He can catch the ball. I like him more than Mitchell. I think Mitchell is rated higher, but I like Worthy. I like Worthy more. I like Mitchell. I mean, he's good, but I
I
like
would
him a lot.
rather. I would rather. I don't want either one of them dudes at 29. But as a Lions fan, I think that's a good question for everybody in the comment section. Would you rather have Worthy or Adonai Mitchell? Because I listen, Adonai Mitchell came from Georgia also. People got to remember this. He didn't produce that much at Georgia. Now I understand Georgia's offense is kind of, prehistoric, kind of that Jim Harbaugh power, run, 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 play action, and this and that. He didn't produce that much at Georgia. He transferred to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He produced somewhat at Texas, but I always looked at Adonai Mitchell over the last 3 years as a guy that just never really put it all together.
Yeah.
Now, if they took Worthy, I would question it bad because I would look at it and say, okay, as you're Brad Holmes and you're Dan Campbell, you cannot possibly tell me that at 29. Now, granted, Worthy measured in, I think, at 6 foot, but he's a one, like you're taking almost a Jameson Williams clone when you have Jameson Williams also. So if it came down to it, if they wanted to take a receiver between those two, I would rather see Worthy because I think Worthy fits our offense better. If you look at the way they like to pretty much run the offense horizontal, not so much vertically. But would they misuse him the way they misuse JMO?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
is golf going to take advantage of that type of speed? There's no reason to have two guys. JMO probably would have ran, he wouldn't have ran 4-1. JMO would have been somewhere in the 4-2 range too, hadn't he torn his ACL and
Hadn't
went
he
to the
got
combine.
hurt? Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you have 2-4-2 guys and never go deep?
Yeah. Yeah, and right, and just for the record too, I think I see Jeremy mention Xavier Leggett. That's my guy. I think that's the guy. I think realistically, the Lions could really take that guy. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that he'll be there. I'm calling him a poor man's Tyreek Hill. I think
He
I think
called this man the Tim Duncan of wide
Tim
receiver.
Duncan. I've seen that too.
Marvin
Uh,
Harrison.
yeah, but I like Xavier Leggett too. I didn't like him at first, but like I said, a lot of these guys I haven't seen on the West Coast, so sometimes I got to go back and look. And even though he's from South Carolina, but I like Xavier Leggett. I think that he brings. I want guys that bring something that to the table that our other guys don't have, and I think that he has that. You know what I'm saying? Him, Brendan Rice would be ideal too later on, but I don't know. I don't know where he might fall. I mean, that's the problem. If you wait and say, you know what, I'm gonna maybe take a stab and maybe try to take Liggett or take Brendan Rice later on, but you don't want to wait too long. I mean, they could be what do you think? Well, I mean, second, third round at the long. You know what I'm saying? They're not
Oh,
necessarily.
Leggett.
Yeah, well, Liggett could be a first. I think he's first round talent, but I don't know. I think with so much emphasis on the high end defensive ends and the quarterbacks, I think that he may slip. You know what I'm saying? It may not be a guy that may be like, obviously in the top 20. He may be within,
Yeah,
20.
I'm not sure if Leggett is a first rounder. I think he has some first round measurables. I think
Mhm.
he's like an Andre Johnson clone out there. You look about 6'1", 227,
Yeah, man.
sub 4'4", a guy that can jump, huge catch radius. He has some of those Calvin Johnson-esque type catches at South Carolina that made you look like, okay, damn, like Spencer Rattler really trusts this guy.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I see the talent. I see it definitely, but he seems like a guy that they would shelf.
yeah.
Like we're talking
Yeah, I
about
don't
week
want that.
7, and so coach, how's Xavier Leggett coming along?
Mm,
Oh, he's coming along.
Yeah,
You know, he's
that
he's
that would
he's,
piss
he's
me off.
almost there. Like I don't want us drafting a guy in the first round that I gotta hear that shit about week
Hmm
7 and week 8. Oh, he's coming along. Like we don't need to hear that. We need guys that can really help. I think this. How do you feel about how they discuss this team publicly? Because I do understand you have to like really have glowing reviews of your team, but it seems like the idea that whoever we take at 29 and who we take in the second round might not even play for us seems kind of ridiculous. Because if you take a corner at 29,
Mm-hmm.
or let's say you trade up for a Quinyon Mitchell or a Nate Wiggins, there's no way in hell you can tell me that Quinyon Mitchell can't play corner in our room with Vildor
Mm-hmm.
and Amik Robertson. Like, I don't like this whole approach of we're gonna run our team like it's a baseball farm team, or we're gonna run it like the way the NBA is, or the NHL. We're gonna shelf everybody.
Mm-hmm.
If a dude is ready to play, he's ready to play.
It's okay to do that. I think it's okay to do that when you're, you know, the Tennessee Titans. You know what I'm saying? Right now, they can do that. You know what I'm saying? Because they clearly like on a different, stage of their franchise's, history. But right now, we're not, Walt. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, we don't need to take
Thank you.
we don't
No, I'm
need to.
listening to you. I'm agreeing with you.
No, of course, I know what you're saying. I seen Jeremy's comment too, and we were saying that last year. That's what I was saying. I don't think it may not be an issue because JMO is a good after the catch guy. So that's why I said maybe, once Goff gets more of time with JMO, I think that relationship will be a little way better this year, I think, than last year. You know what I'm saying? Just to back up Jeremy's point, because now Goff, no, like you said, under 20 yards. That's what I said. Between 20-yard line and 20-yard line, Jared Goff is damn good. You know what I'm saying? As far as like from the hash marks in, he can get the ball there. It's just we need the receiver, quote unquote, we need the right guy who can turn that into something. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm looking at. I mean, I'm not looking at a guy, like this. I was fooled like Antoine Green. Remember, I was high on Antoine Green. I was like, dude, that's a sixth or seventh round draft pick, receiver from North Carolina that I thought that he would benefit from, being a later round trip on show, that type of thing. Sideline guy, catch the ball. And I don't know necessarily if his skill set kind of goes with what Jared Goff is. You know what I'm saying? Now looking at it hindsight, a year later, maybe it could be wrong, but yeah. So right now, I want a specific guy. If I'm taking a receiver and a running back, those two nuances of our team, people say that they're set. Well, not necessarily. You know what I'm saying? I think you could always, you know, add different dimensions. That's why I mentioned a bigger running back. That's something where other teams haven't seen that with us. You know what I'm saying? Well, what we already have would be deadly, I think. A guy not necessarily that can just run straight to the goal line and catch the ball. I mean, maybe we need a fit. That's why I keep bringing up Brian Thomas because I think he's a guy that could be physically imposing across the middle, sort of like a Nico Collins type thing. You know what I mean? You know how
Yeah.
Nico Collins turned into being like a damn dominant damn receiver. You know what I'm saying? That's how I see Brian Thomas. So yeah, it's gonna be. I can't wait till we get more into it because I think that once while we get into more of these guys' traits, more of their tendencies, more of the explode. I like you said the explosion rate. I think that people get a better understanding of what we picking. You know what I'm saying? What we need to pick or what we're in
Yeah.
need of as our team. Because I think if I look at the 2023 Detroit Lions, I mean, I would say people look at us and say they're damn good. They're a damn good team. But who's elite on that team? Who's a guy you got? I think Jameer Gibbs and Laporta turned into two guys that you got a game plan for, in addition to St. Brown. You know what I'm saying? So you know they got three dogs on offense, right? You know what I'm saying? So defensively, I think that's where the issue, the gap is, I think, on our team. I think we really need to get some difference makers, man. Not just good players. We need to get a guy who's a difference maker. I think that's what this
Yeah.
team is lacking to take us to the next level. So
Yeah. I agree with Jeremy. When you watch Brian Thomas on film, a lot of that does pop up. The only thing about Antoine Green, I will say this: I was pretty familiar with Antoine Green coming out of college.
mhm.
I just
I loved it.
I
I
had
loved
the
it.
same outlook on him that I had on we just mentioned him, the wide receiver from LSU that got drafted by Carolina.
Terrence Marshall.
Yeah, Terrace Marshall. I just found it strange that you played at Carolina that long and could never break the starting lineup. Like when you look at, and I understand some of the guys he played behind, and Josh Downs and De'Ami Brown, who went to Washington, who has kind of like struggled to really find his footing in the league.
Mhm.
And there was another one that the Chicago Bears drafted. Matter of fact, um, you played there that long and could never really crack the lineup. He was always inconsistent. He remained kind of like a one-trick pony there at Carolina. That's why I look at it as, being a 4-year player, sometimes a 5-year player, and you still never really completely well round your game as a wide receiver and put it together. That worries me, because if you couldn't put it all together in 4 years in college or 5 years in college, why am I supposed to believe that you're going to get to the NFL level and all of a sudden be able to put it all together? Now, can Antoine Green be a, a one, like I said, for lack of a better phrase, not to insult him, but like maybe a one trick pony? Can he be a specialist? Can he
Mhm.
be that guy that runs the deep phase, the post, the quick slants? Because remember, we saw what he did that quick slant against Carolina last preseason, and he took that boy to the house. I'm just not against finding another wide receiver. I think Antoine Green can help out. We expect him to play a bigger role this season, but I just think, in the Brian Thomases of the world, uh, personally, I'd rather have Keon Coleman over Brian Thomas. I understand Brian Thomas is
Yeah,
a more explosive athlete, but Keon Coleman, I think, does all of the wide receiver
yeah.
things better.
Very underrated. I like Keon Cole. What up, Kendall? Yeah, I like Keon Cole. It's a lot of other prospects. I just didn't.
Ooh,
I
I
just
don't know
didn't
about
ready
the
to.
top five.
Yeah, top five. Man, I'd be pushing that. That would be like really like a surprise right
Nah,
there.
I couldn't. I can't trade up for receiver. I'm not investing that much money on the offensive side of the football.
Um,
You talking about paying Golf? What you gonna pay Golf? You talking about paying Sewell? What you got to pay Sewell soon? You talking about paying Laporta in another 2-3 years? You may
yeah,
have to pay him sooner. Like
yeah.
if
You
he
might have
keeps
to pay him.
playing, yeah.
Right,
Saint
right.
Brown.
Yeah,
Like, do you
St.
really
Brown
want
is
to
the guy. Yeah,
JMO? Like, what if JMO comes out and has a monster year?
which
That
is
you do you
very
really want to
possible.
invest that much money on the offensive side of the ball? I just can't do it.
One guy walked before we get out of here. One guy that I'm. Tell me if I'm wrong. I know we got a lot of football elitists that's watching right now, guys. That's expertise in the draft. That first of all, we appreciate all the comments and all. You guys are just like experts in the draft. So from Fidel to Jeremy to everybody who watching, right? So tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, I am I the only one that's like not on the Lad McConkey bandwagon? I don't know. I mean,
Not in the first round.
what does he do?
No.
What does he do to say like, man, he's a first round receiver? I've heard people say that this week. I mean, not that
He
I'm
give
killing.
he gives Jared Goff easier throws. I think that's what they thinking about. Like he's like having another St. Brown out there to a lesser extent right now.
Yeah, because he runs a 4. He now credit. He is better like getting initiating contact a little bit better than I
He
thought
plays
he.
big too.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So he does absorb, but maybe that could be a recipe for like not being able to hold up, physically. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I just like I said, the jury's out for me on Lad McConkey. I'm kind of on the fence, man. You know what
I
I'm saying?
like Lad.
I've
Not at
seen
29, but no, I mean you
I've
talking
seen
like
him
he's
mocked to the Chiefs. I've seen him mocked to the
yeah.
Chiefs a couple times late in the first round. So,
No,
but
not
they
too
had him over some other guys, like what I'm saying, Walt, like taking Xavier Liggett, or they had him over 3 or 4 other guys, which is fine. I mean, you get who for your team. That's number one. I think that trying to grade these guys at cornerbacks. I think the receivers, another position past Marvis Harrison, Malik Neighbors. You're splitting hairs, man. I really do. I think you just have to get the guy for your system. And I think NFL teams do that for the most part. You know what I mean? Last year, we seen that oh man, I can't think of who it was that went. And everybody was like, why in the hell would they I can't think of the top of my head right now. I even thought that was Laporta. I thought that, man, at 34. I mean, I didn't think that the Lions would really, maybe you could took Laporta later in the draft. I mean, now you wouldn't say that, but I'm saying, what I'm saying? Well, go last year, Laporta probably would have been a 4th-round pick or something like that, and no one would have questioned it. But that was the guy that was specifically for our team and for our quarterback, for our offensive coordinator, and it was the right pick. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. I just think that teams get who they feel that's going to be their guy. You know what I mean? And,
yeah.
Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong.
He may not be a first round talent, but he may perform like a first round pick for you.
There we go. There we
Yeah.
go. Just like that.
I don't know. Like I said, I like Lad McConkey. Like I said, as a slot receiver, Jeremy brought that up. Not at number 29. But what's weird about it, man, on film, he plays more physical at the catch point than Brian Thomas. And Brian Thomas is what, 6 inches taller?
Yeah, 6 inches taller.
Like,
Brian trying
yeah,
to get to the end zone though, man. Brian trying to
yeah,
score. He
but it's like
thinking I'm getting this ball.
I
I'm scoring. Period.
I get it, but it just shows you how it's not the size of the dog, it's the size of the fighting the dog. Like Steve Smith. Steve Smith was
Oh
probably
yeah.
the shortest guy. He was at a physical mismatch all the time against the corners he faced, but they were at a heart mismatch against him because Steve Smith was a complete dog. But I remember watching Carson Beck for Georgia throw this guy fades and throw him jump balls at 5'10. And Lad jumps and comes down with it. So I think when Jeremy brought up Brian Thomas and the lack of physicality at the catch point, the ball skills, that's something you either have or you don't.
Right.
But you
Right.
see that in a 5'10" Lad McConkey. You don't really see that consistently from a 6'3" Brian Thomas. So I like him. If we talking about maybe in the third round, depending on what we do at the receiver position early, it's possible. But as far as he also brought up Luke McCaffrey. I'm not a Luke McCaffrey fan at all. I
From
saw a
BYU.
dude at the I don't. He's if we comparing white wide receivers, because I'm always compare to white wide receivers. I would rather have Ricky Pearsall. I love Ricky Pearsall from
For
Florida.
Florida. Yeah.
I think he goes ahead of Luke. I watched Luke get pushed around a lot at the Senior Bowl against some of them corners. So it's like, okay, you got the height and the weight and long arms, but like when it comes to the competition, that's what I think is so valuable about the Senior Bowl, the Senior Bowl practice for that matter,
Yeah.
because it's competition. It's a bunch of dogs out there who fighting for NFL spots.
Yeah. Yep,
And
yep.
when you go there, that's why I was so big on Quinyon Mitchell. Quinyon Mitchell showed up and he showed out.
Oh man, yep, right, right. And like I'm the same way. I do like that competition, that fire, man. That just show like you said. Who was the receiver we didn't mention? Javon Baker. I thought Javon Baker
Yeah.
was great at the Senior Bowl. You know what I'm saying? He was just like, I don't give a damn. My name might not be in lights, but you know what? I got something to go off of out here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm gonna put my name out there. So, yeah, I mean, it's all and for every guy that doesn't like Brian Thomas, and that's cool. You know what I'm saying? I think we all got our difference of opinions, and I think that for me, I mean, I'm just looking at our team through Lions glasses. Number one, I mean, I just look at guys, and I automatically would picture
But that's
him
the if he's an effort
playing.
guy, does he fit with us?
Yeah,
That's the key. Like if he's a
yeah,
guy who
that's
doesn't
true.
really fight.
That's true. That's true. That's not a Brad Holmes guy. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely, I agree with you on that. Because, like you said, you got to be able to be versatile. Number one, to play for this coaching staff, and like you say, it do has to be a level of want to,
Dog.
dog in you. But for every guy like that, we've had some duds too. You know what I'm saying? That hasn't shown me that, at least in the game, maybe in practice. But so next week, I mean, well, this week we get into
Big boards.
more of big board.
Big
Okay, yeah,
boards.
because we do big boards. I like big boards. I'm gonna do my first one while I ain't as well versed in it as you. I'm gonna
I
try my
told you
first.
I got my top 40 prospects for Detroit. I'm
Yeah, yeah.
still working through. I think I'm at 26 right now.
Okay,
Working through.
I think I'm at 10. So I gotta work on that this week, man, because yeah, it's some talent to be had out here. So
Yeah. All right, man. It was great to have everybody join us this Saturday morning. I
yeah,
love these
yeah.
Saturday mornings, man.
Yep.
It's just something about waking up fresh in the morning,
Yeah.
making yourself a cup of coffee, black coffee.
Yeah.
Because it gets straight to the brain. I don't need my coffee. I don't need any hazelnut, any vanilla, any
I don't
sugar
drink.
cookie. I don't I don't need none of that shit.
I ain't a
Just give me my
coffee guy.
coffee black on
Yeah,
Saturday
yeah,
morning.
for sure. That's what's up. That's
But
what's up.
man, it's great. We're what 2 weeks away from the NFL draft, man.
Now,
We're gonna
did
do
you do
big
your
board.
cue before we get out? Yeah, we gonna do big boards. So you want to come back Sunday? No, not tomorrow. Maybe Monday.
We should be
Tuesday,
able to
Monday or Tuesday this week.
unveil our big boards, compare our big boards. I know Avery is gonna probably join the Spirit of Detroit. I know he's gonna have his big board, and like I said, I got 40 players. Not saying everybody else got to have 40 players, but we just gonna compare the big boards, and maybe we can get together and put together a Lions Avenue big board that me and you together, how we would rank all of these prospects and players, and how we think they could come off the board depending on how things fall in front of Detroit. Jeremy says, French blend dark roast for me. What brand, man? What brand? I need to know what brand. Cause I've been buying that expensive ass Seattle's Best coffee.
Oh hell no!
Hey man, listen, I just started drinking coffee at the age of 39. So the wife got me hooked on buying that now. So she ain't gonna buy expensive coffee, but I'll buy the expensive coffee, and I like that Seattle's Best, bro. That's some real smooth coffee. Get us some promotion. Seattle's Best, Detroit Lions Avenue. Welcome to Detroit, where we drink like we from Seattle. Oh boy. But yeah, we'll be back next week to start breaking down these big boards, because man, we didn't talk about these players enough, bro. And it's Jeremy still talking about this coffee,
get my Amazon deliver two
this man rich.
Yeah, I know. Man,
this man get his coffee delivered right to his front porch.
Oh shit.
But so hopefully we can get Jeremy on one of these shows, man. Start breaking down these big boards, man, because we're about 2 weeks away. I'm getting to a point now, the way I normally am, 2 weeks away from the draft every year, where I'm sick and tired of talking about this.
I know you just want to
start hearing a lot of stupid stuff in the media.
That's what I'm saying. It's like it's crazy how people just and granted, all these players got different camps, and their camps is putting stuff against the wall and see if it sticks, right? And seeing if anybody
people starting just throwing rumors out there. I heard somebody put out there a rumor, because anybody on TV, not TV, but on social media can create a graphic and put a caption on it talking about the Lions trading up for Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. People are just bored right now, so we're hearing a lot of stupid stuff. But
we see, a lot of construction, and everybody, they build, the draft is here in Detroit this year, which is super exciting. You know what I'm saying? I plan to, go, my family, we plan to go at least the Saturday for sure. I know it's going to be like the 4th through 7th round. I'm going to try to get down there Friday if I can for day 2. But, a lot of excitement, man. You see the stages being built, you know what I'm saying, downtown, in the heart of downtown. So, it's really happening. It's really happening, man. So, that's all I want to say.
Well, 2 weeks closer to the NFL draft. Next week is going to be fun. We're going to start jumping into these big boards, ranking these players in the order that we would take them if they came off the board. Because at some point in time, you got to realize when he gets to pick 29, if Brad Holmes plans on staying put, not moving up, not moving back, we got to start figuring out how these guys fit in: safety, guard, tackle, wide receiver, cornerback for that matter, and all these good spots. But till next time,
peace.
Lions up, one pride.